for our international commitments, and I really commend this amendment to the House.
The Honourable Amy Adams.
Madam Chair, I do want to take another call on this part one to respond to some of the nonsense we have heard from across the aisle about the creation of this issue of the lack of housing supply. Because if you would listen to the other side, Madam Chair, they would have you believe, not you, Madam Chair, of course, they would have this House believe that the whole issue magically started in the last 9 years. Well, I want to inject a little bit of fact into this debate. And, Madam Chair, if anybody wants to dispute this, have a look at the Stats New Zealand website, right? The Stats New Zealand website. It's a bit inconvenient for the government. They don't want to hear it. But let's look at the reality here. House building started to plummet in New Zealand in 2003 and fell to the lowest levels for many, many decades in 2008 when we took office. 2003, house building plummeted. It's like a straight line decline down to the very lows when we took office. And if you look at that Stats New Zealand graph, and the government won't, because actual information gets in the way of their ideology, but if you look at that graph, it collapsed under the last Labor government, completely collapsed. And under the National government, that rate of house building picked up from the cellar and went right back up strongly. It was the National government that recovered house building in this country. And if it hadn't been for those lost years under Labor where they were asleep at the helm, as they are now with the economy, and they did nothing to address the complete collapse in house building, we wouldn't have a shortage of housing now.
You're exactly right.
National recovered the sector. And frankly, Madam Chair, it is the work already of this government to destroy the funding of house construction in this country that is once again creating a problem of insufficient houses being built. So look at the numbers. That's all I would say to this House or anyone listening to the debate. Look at the numbers in Stats New Zealand. The collapse in house building started under the last Labor government. It was recovered strongly under the National government, and already we're seeing and hearing from developers it is because of the changes in this bill that they now can't get financing for their developments. I was talking to developers just last week, actually, who said to me that they have been building hundreds of affordable properties in Auckland. New Zealand developers, not some nasty foreigners, New Zealand developers, but yes, their financing comes from offshore. And because of this bill, they have now lost funding for a number of developments they had planned. Now, some of those developments are going to be rebadged as Kiwi Build, and Phil Twyford will pretend somehow he's adding to the pipeline. He is not. It is picking up a few of the lost developments because of this legislation. So not only did Labor break the housing market last time they were in government, not only have they completely failed to recognise how hard it has been to get that sector going again, straight in, and they're doing it again. And we've just heard from the last speaker that actually, this is causing the pressures on accommodation supplement. Well, I'll tell you what doesn't help the pressures on accommodation supplement: driving landlords out of the market head over tail. Landlords are saying under this lot there is no reason we would own a property. Costs are going up, rents are going up. That is all on New Zealanders, and it's on the poorest New Zealanders. So it's not about looking after the top end of town. You make houses more expensive, you make rents more expensive, you stop the funding of developments, and it is people on the lowest wages who miss out. So, Madam Chair, I couldn't sit here and listen to this debate saying that the need for this bill was because of the last 9 years. Then there is no need for this bill, first of all. There is no need for it. But let's be really clear. If there is a shortage of houses in Auckland at the moment, and there is, and I acknowledge that, that is because they were absolutely derelict in their duty the last time they were in government, and they are showing already the same signs of a rampant and total disregard for any sort of economic analysis, any understanding, any willingness to listen to advice, to listen to the people who came to the Select Committee. And whether it's in housing, whether it's in viticulture, whether it's in the profit of prawn space, not once did they front up with any evidence that this will address the problem they're talking about. And everybody who came to the Select Committee, as my colleagues have said, made it clear they didn't want any part of it. They could sort of say to the government, oh, well, good on you, nice that you're trying, but please carve us out because this will destroy us. Well, Madam Chair, this is exactly the sort of economic vandalism we're seeing from this government. Have a good bumper sticker, virtue signal or something that sounds good in the polls, and have total disregard for whether it works.
I'll call the Honourable Jerry Brownlee.